what is our environment? Our environment is nothing but the area that is surrounding us. So what it will be made up of? It is made up of, obviously we know, the living organisms and the non-living things or the non-living components. That is nothing but, that is the environment. So environment is made up of living organisms and the non-living things. The living organisms are called the biotic components, and the non-living things that are present are called abiotic components. So what are these biotic and abiotic components doing in the environment? They interact. Okay, the biotic components actually depend upon the abiotic components like air, water, sunlight, temperature, etc. for their survival. So there is an interaction of biotic components with the abiotic components in the environment. Okay, so this interaction which is between the biotic and abiotic components is what is called as the ecosystem. Okay, that interaction is what is called as ecosystem. So when we talk about the ecosystems in the environment, there are two different types of ecosystems broadly. One type are called the natural, which are God made. Other one are the artificial, which are man made. So the natural ecosystems which naturally exist in the environment can be divided into terrestrial, aquatic and mountain, or the Himalayan regions which are there. Okay, so those, the mountain ecosystem you can say. So here we have is the natural ecosystems. Terrestrial, we have forest, desert and grasslands. Then we have the aquatic ecosystem, ponds, lakes, rivers and oceans. The mountain ecosystem is the Himalayan region. Okay, so like this you have different types of God-made ecosystems, natural ecosystems. Then we have some artificial or man-made ecosystem, which include the aquarium, the crop field, garden, zoos, parks, etc. All these are there. So what we have discussed, so biotic and abiotic components are the part of the environment, and the interaction between biotic and abiotic components is what is called ecosystem, and the ecosystems are of two types, that is natural and artificial, and we have discussed what are those. So in the ecosystem, what will be present? Usually in the exam they'll ask a question about the ecosystem. So write about forest as an ecosystem if they ask. Then in the ecosystem what you have to write is, there will be a producer, there will be a consumer and there will be a decomposer. Whatever may be the type of the ecosystem, so you have to remember that in the exam if a question is asked, so you will write about the producer, consumer and decomposer in each of these ecosystems. Suppose if you are writing about the forest as an ecosystem, you will write that a forest producers will be different varieties of big trees will be there, and also herbs, shrubs, all varieties of plants will be there, which will be the producers. And then followed by that the consumers. The consumers can be herbivores or carnivores, and you'll write about the names of the herbivores and carnivores. And then we have the decomposers. Usually decomposers will be the microbes that will be present in the soil, which will decompose the material, which will fall onto the soil, the dead bodies of the plants or the animals, the dead animals or the plant remains which will fall will be digested by the microbes. So usually in the decomposer category we will write about as microbes in general. So like this, whatever may be the ecosystem in the exam, you can just write these details and you can fill in all the details like this and you can complete your answer. Then talking about in the ecosystem where there are producers, consumers and decomposers, so presence of this type of organisms will lead to formation of what are called as food chains. So there will be food chains in the ecosystem. Food chains and food webs will be a part of the ecosystem. What are these food chains? Food chains are nothing but so many living organisms are present in an ecosystem. So there is an interdependence between the organisms for the sake of food. So this interdependence among the organisms for the sake of food is what is called as the food chain, or in simple terms, nutritive bond between the living organisms is called as the food chain. So if you want to understand it through an example, we have grass, deer and lion. So grass is eaten by the deer, which is a herbivore, followed by that deer is eaten by the carnivores like lion. So this forms an example for the food chain. So like this, there will be number of food chains in any ecosystem. There will be so many different food chains. You have to remember that in any food chain, the ultimate source of energy, the energy that is required for the producer, which is the top member in the food chain, is from the sun. So usually there will be a question, what will be the ultimate source of energy in a food chain? It is sun. Okay, from sun energy is taken by grass, which is producer, from which it is passed to that energy after its consumption will reach deer, and from there to the next consumer, that is lion. So here grass is called the producer, deer is called the primary consumer, and lion is called the secondary consumer. When we talk about the food chains, okay, I have represented T1, T2, okay, levels there. This T1, T2, okay, stands for trophic levels. So what is a trophic level? Each energy level in the food chain, okay, from here to here, it is called energy level. Each energy level is called the trophic level. Each energy level in the food chain is called the trophic level. Okay, so like this, here in this food chain, I have just 2 trophic levels. There may be food chains where there can be even 4 trophic levels also, depending upon what is eating the other organism. Okay, then the amount of energy in the food chain will decrease down the trophic level 90% by 90% every level. What does this mean? See, okay, grass is receiving energy from the sun. From here, the total energy will not go to the deer. Okay, so many plants, if it eats also, all that energy will not get transferred to the deer. But how much energy will get transferred to the deer? Only 10%. 90% of energy will be lost, okay, during this transfer process. Every transfer process, 90% of energy is lost, and only 10% of energy will reach the next trophic level, okay, which is understandable through a law which is called the 10% law of energy, that is given by Raymond Lindman. Okay, so according to Lindman, only 10% of energy is available at each level in the food chain. 90% of it is lost by respiration, by movements as body heat and all, it will be lost. That is, suppose if deer is okay, eating all the grass or the plant material, everything it will not digest of. Some material will be wasted and some will be sent out through ejection process. Some amount of the energy will be lost in the form of heat, and some amount of energy for its activities and all will be lost. So total dispersed energy will be 90% and restored energy will be only 10%. So this is what is called as 10% law of energy, which can be asked as an important question in the exam. So do follow it through this example. Suppose, okay, grass is, so our food chain has got grass, deer and lion. Okay, so grass, that is the plants have received, let us suppose 10,000 joules of energy. Okay, grass has received 10,000 joules of energy. Where from it has received this energy? From the sun. So from sun, grass has received 10,000 joules of energy, let us suppose. So from here, the amount of energy that is reaching deer will be just, it will be 1000 joules. So how it will be? 10,000, 10% of 10,000, you can do the calculation like that, wherein you get the answer as 1000 joules. So as you have observed, the amount of energy from this trophic level to the next trophic level, it is just 10%, and 90% of it is getting lost. From deer, when the energy is getting transferred to lion, you see the energy, how much it is? Just 100 joules. That is, 90% of it is lost, only 10% has reached the next trophic level. So usually when you see like this in the food chains, the amount of the energy which is reaching the every trophic level will be just 10% and 90% of it will be lost. Okay, so this is how you can understand the 10% law of energy. And further, let us try to understand about what are food webs, okay, and what is ozone layer depletion, and how actually, okay, we are a cause for the ozone layer depletion, and what is the Montreal Protocol and all other details.